So this video is something that I spent the last couple days on. It's got several clips. Took me quite a long time to put all of this together. I think I've got like over 40 clips. So it took me a while to put this together, but let me start off by saying, if you happen to be somebody that has a way to contact or communicate with Darth Dawkins, okay, if you are one of those people, and if you ever hear, well, let me put it this way, the next time you're able to contact him or communicate with him, let him know that there is a video on my channel. Give him the link to this video. Because remember, Darth says that his worldview is a nuclear strength worldview. It cannot be defeated. It is also impossible to deny. And so I would like for him to have the link to this video. So we can just go ahead and give them the link so he can hear how his worldview is impossible to deny. And of course, you know, after everyone listens to this, of course, we're going to not be able to deny anything that he says. That's a given, you know. But anyway, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to show you some clips. Several clips which Darth has stated about his own worldview. And what I did is I put it all together, and this will give statements. He's talking about his own worldview, and he's speaking from his worldview. So these are, I guess you could maybe say, you could call them bullet points concerning his worldview. Okay, here they are. Oh, I'm sorry. Actually, before I do that, there is one clip that I do want you to listen to. I am going to come back to this clip at the end of the video. For right now, it may seem out of place. After you hear this clip, and then you hear the clips about his worldview, this particular clip may sound a little out of place, but after we get to the end of this video, then you will understand just how incriminating this clip is. Okay, now here is that clip.
A law. It's a rule of how things work.
That's begging the question. Why is it an absolute? Do you know who Stephen Hawking was?
Yeah. Okay.
Stephen Hawking said that the laws of nature as we know them break down at the Big Bang.
All right. Now remember, depending on who Darth is speaking with, and depending on which version of Darth you are listening to, there are times when he will quote even atheists, philosophers, and atheist scientists and atheist PhDs. He will quote them liberally if he thinks that it's something that can be used to bolster his view. But on the other side, the flip side, for example, is his chat with Dr. Krauss, where he obviously criticized Dr. Krauss. So depending on which version of Darth you're listening to, you can hear either or. But in that clip, you heard him talking about Stephen Hawking, and he mentioned about how Hawking said that the laws of nature break down at the Big Bang. All right, and remember, Darth Dawkins does not believe in the Big Bang anyway. He has stated that before, that he does not believe the Big Bang. But just keep this clip in mind. All right, now I'm going to let you listen to the other clips.
Worldview. Truth is only attainable in a worldview that is true, not in a worldview that is false. It is impossible to deny the Christian worldview. And the justification is going to have to be within your theory of knowledge and your ontology. The justification in the Christian worldview is in virtue of either God's natural or special revelation. Now, when we speak from our respective worldviews or models of reality, a model of reality from which we speak is all-encompassing, whether you realize that or not. So that model of reality, that frame of reference, which will be all-encompassing, that frame of reference is either true or it's not true. Now, before I complete my explanation, do you accept that a model of reality that we each speak from is either true or not true? Yes.
You have to realize Christianity is the only rational worldview. If God is omniscient and omnipotent, then he couldn't be defeated in any way. And that includes with the mind of man. So the point is simply this, okay? It is impossible to deny the God of the Bible, because when you attempt to do so, you plunge yourself into complete incoherence. You can't have intelligibility. So it's either you accept the loving revelation of the God of the Bible through natural and special revelation, and your only alternative is to embrace incoherence and absurdity. In other words, where nothing has any meaning, intelligibility, or actuality. What I'm trying to explain to you is when you reject God's self-disclosure in natural and special revelation, you are doomed to metaphysical absurdity and darkness. You will have no facts for the self-attesting nature of the scriptures. But the way that we break through to the blinding power of mental autonomy is to be blinded, including materialism, naturalism, and atheism. Okay, so the way I know it is through God's revelatory actions, natural revelation and special revelation. And the reason why I know it is true is because the content of the Christian scriptures are self-attesting and self-authenticating. However, if somebody is clinging to mental sovereignty or mental autonomy, they will be blinded to the self-attesting nature of the scriptures. But the way that we break through to the blinding power of mental autonomy is to show them that the non-acceptance of God's self-disclosure leads to catastrophic and complete absurdity. In other words, if you do not accept God's self-disclosure of himself, including his properties and attributes, you will.
Okay, so what you heard there were several bullet points. I'm going to, read off here basically some of the things that he said. He said, truth is only attainable in a worldview that is true. And of course, now these points are referring to his personal worldview. Okay, keep that in mind. A worldview is either true or not true because it's all-encompassing. A worldview is either true in its entirety or it is not entirely true. Not accepting natural and special revelation leads to chaos, absurdity, where one is doomed to incoherence. Christianity is the only rational worldview. Darth Dawkins is speaking only from a biblical perspective. Now that one you didn't hear, but I'm going to play that one at the end, and you will hear that with some other similar clips. Okay, the next one, Darth Dawkins, it is impossible to deny the God of the Bible, and it's also impossible to deny the Christian worldview, which of course, again, in other words, it's impossible to deny Darth's worldview. Okay, now with that, I'm going to let you hear this next clip and pay very close attention to what he says.
Would you agree with that?
Well, there are certain things that we have to know through progressive revelation. But you see, Christianity did not start 2,000 years ago. Historically, it started in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Okay, now, I have heard Darth state that same thing on several occasions. He says that Christianity did not start 2,000 years ago. It started in the beginning. In other words, it started at Genesis. The quote or the verse that he actually cited was Genesis 1:1, which is the first verse in the Bible. I mean, as far as I know, to my knowledge, it doesn't matter which version you go to. That is the first verse of the Old Testament. Now here I want to stop for kind of a little detour. And I mentioned something similar to this in the last video that I did a couple days ago. It is my position that, or it's my opinion, I should say, maybe a little better word. When you hear Darth speaking to his opponents, generally his opponents have a tendency to push back on whatever he's saying. As I said a couple days ago, I gave a tip to anyone that would want to debate or chat with Darth Dawkins. The tip that I gave is to not push back on anything that he says. Accept everything he says. Buy it. Okay? Accept everything this guy says to you. Because here's the reason why. Well, remember the verses earlier you heard that was talking about how you don't accept his worldview, it will lead to absolute incoherence and chaos? Well, if you accept everything he says, my question would be, do you think you're going to be any better off? And at the end of this video, it will be a beautiful example of why. If you accept in context, philosophically, metaphysically, and transcendentally, if you accept all of those items that he usually presents, accept all of it, buy into all of it. Okay, now I'm going to show you what happens when you accept everything he said. Now listen to this clip. Actually, these are about 2 or 3 clips which are speaking about Darth Dawkins and some of the claims that he's made about himself and some of the claims that he's made about his apologetics. Listen to what he says.
Darth, could you be wrong about everything you claim to know?
No.
And as long as the room is not being operated on somebody that I've dealt with before who's an absolute troll, right? I'll go in there and I'll say, yeah, I'm a theist who doesn't lie. What would you like to hit me with?
Yeah, because the message of Christianity, as it is spoken by me, the denial of which leads to incoherence.
This is definitely dark.
Everybody see the tactic? By the way, I'm recording this.
I don't give a shit.
I know you don't.
Now, is your knowledge of God provisional to your limited, fallible nature? Yes or no?
No. Or God belief. And by the way, I'm sure you're aware that I only defend Christian theism. In Christian theism,
God, from a biblical, I'm only going to give you the biblical perspective.
I want your perspective. I don't.
I'm giving you my perspective is the biblical perspective. Okay. You're.
Okay, now he said several things there. He said he's a theist who doesn't lie. He said that he only presents his worldview. He speaks from only a so-called biblical worldview only, which depending on which version of him you're going to hear something else. When you hear he was asked, could you be wrong about anything you claim to know or everything you claim to know? He answered no. When Floyd FP asked him, is your knowledge of God provisional to your limited fallible nature? And Darth answered no. He also said that the message of Christianity, as spoken by him, if we deny it, it's going to lead to incohesion. So all of those things together, everything that he says there, okay, remember, buy it, okay? Accept it. We're going to accept it, even though it's a pretty heady brew. Now, with that, remember, let's take a look at one more thing, or maybe one or two more things that he said. And we're going to see what happens when we accept everything this guy says. And remember, he's a theist who doesn't lie. He is speaking from only the biblical worldview. And if we deny his message, it will lead to incoherence. Okay? Now with that, let's listen to this clip.
Contingent upon anything external to himself. The Bible makes it very clear that God is in his being self-identical. The Bible makes it very clear that God cannot contradict himself, nor can he lie. It is.
Okay, so there he pointed out that the Bible makes it clear that God cannot lie and God cannot contradict himself. And remember, Darth is the one that we need to go to for philosophical, metaphysical, and transcendental truth. Definitely. Okay, now let's listen to another clip. And I think this is the last one. And now on this one, what I suggest you do, if you are sitting down, even in a chair, before you sit down, I would install a seat belt and a shoulder strap. All right? Because when you hear what he says next, well, I don't want to patronize you. I'll let you listen to it for yourself. Okay, this is part of his nuclear strength worldview. And one thing, very important thing that I want to say before you listen to the clip is that actually, now this is kind of a long clip. It lasts, I don't know, maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes, because I wanted to make sure that I played it in context so that my critics would not have anything to accuse me of. So I went back and I actually started to record it before he even gets to the main point. That way I cannot be accused. Well, I could be accused, but I think any rational person that listens to this will see that this is in context. And remember everything that we've heard about Darth, what he says. So listen to this clip.
Okay? Now, I can go through the process of basically how God makes us to know that he exists at a very young age. Okay?
I wasn't asking for that. I was just asking for your personal experience, if you had any.
Well, my personal experience is what happens to everybody, okay? At a certain point, you realize that there is something that is keeping everything the same while allowing some things to change. And then the question will automatically arise once we have a certain amount of neurological development. Is that one thing not like me, that it's not a mind, or is it a mind? Okay. Now, sometimes parents will get to that concept before a child at a very young age thinks that thought.
That's what I was asking.
Even for Aboriginals in the Amazonian jungle. But you see, there are certain people say, well, what about these remote people who don't believe in God? Look, this is called worshiping the creation rather than the creator. There are certain people groups, small in number, who decide to eschew believing in a supreme being and just believe in creation is their ultimate source. But you will find that even pre-Christianity, right, that there is widespread acknowledgement of a creator, although they may have other additional beliefs that we may or may not accept from a biblical or a non-biblical thing. But the notion of a singular, concrete, supreme being is widespread throughout world history. Now, there are times that there are certain cultures and societies that abandon this, and then they adopt ideas like the Greek and Roman pantheon and things like that. Right.
So
but let me just say one more thing. The fact that some cultures or nationalities abandon the idea of a supreme being and creator and adopt a polytheistic notion is not a defeater for belief in a supreme being.
Fuck your Christianity, bro.
Okay, there it is. Now, remember, accept that. All right, because if you do not accept that, and by the way, it is impossible to deny his worldview, so you really have to accept it. But anyway, remember the first clip that I played, and I told you that I'll go back to it. That was the one where he was referring to Stephen Hawking, and he was talking about how Hawking said that the laws of nature, as we know them, break down at the Big Bang. So Darth also said that Christianity did not start 2,000 years ago. It started at Genesis 1:1. Okay? Now, the last clip I played, Darth referred to these people who were having some kind of a chat before Christianity. So in other words, they were conversing with each other or talking about something X, whatever it is, before Christianity. So, I mean, all I can say, Darth, if you are listening to this, thank you very much. Congratulations. And please keep talking, okay? Because remember, atheists and unbelievers, we go to you. We seek you for metaphysical, transcendental, and philosophical truths. And I would dare to say that if we were to take every atheist, every non-believer that you've ever spoke to in the last 10 or 12 or 13 years, if we were to get them all together in one room to vote on who they think would be the best philosopher, they would vote you as number one, hands down. Well, maybe not number one. It would be number two. Yeah. Let me say that they would definitely call you number two. Okay, so thank you for listening, and please leave your comments. And remember, whatever Darth says, buy it.
Here she comes, right at us. Watch them come together. There it is. Look out. Wow, some smash.
By the way, I'm sure you're aware that I only defend Christian theism. In Christian theism,
Listen to me carefully. The reason why I have to be so assertive is because I have this teenage mentality. Listen carefully.